please take him to our guest bedroom?
Chérie,
I will go and put
s'il vous
Jimmy to
plaît,
sleep.
tika na
The man
chambre
took
na
me to a
biso.
room following a narrow under the bed. A man, a woman, and a skeleton of a child in between them. The man and woman were recognizable, as their corpse still had dried out flesh and skin on them.
They started
My
beating
baby, I
him.
knew it.
The bullies stopped the bus. It was certain that the driver was sexually harassed by them. Then it dropped down a cliff. The bus driver didn't reduce the speed on purpose. All the passengers on the bus died.
Are you saying you live with Michael Jackson?
Shh, quiet down. I don't want the neighbors finding out, idiot.
He bolted towards my room and rushed to the foot of my bed.
Leave me alone, I'm going to go.
I know it's been long, but I'm back like I never. I'm back. Yo, it's good to be back. Listen, I'm back like I am joking. So today we are reacting to 2 horror stories animated. Up to it, let's go. I'm out. Goodbye. Yeah. So it's been long, guys, but I'm back like I never left.
I'm doing all that I can, and everybody hates Chris. They can't understand. Can we love? Can we love? Can we love? Can we love?
Like this? I think my last time being sued.
It's the tall man we saw earlier. His position, it ran full speed.
That. This? Like this?
So we're gonna first start off with 3 short stories, and then Number 1, the bus driver.
This incident took
Of course,
place
like
in
Hiroshima,
China.
China, of course.
A female bus driver was driving when 3 bullies on the bus suddenly approached her. They began threatening her and told her to stop the bus immediately. Other passengers were ignoring the situation, but one middle-aged man stood up and tried to stop them. However, showing no mercy, they started
My
beating
baby,
him.
I knew it.
The bullies stopped the bus, dragged the driver into the woods nearby, and after a while, returned to the bus. It was certain that the driver was sexually harassed by them. Even though she returned with a terrible look on her face, her expression was still
She just,
very calm.
And nobody
The
did
driver
anything.
then ordered the middle-aged man to get off the bus right away.
Why?
The man complained to the driver that he was the only person trying to save her, but the driver shouted that she wouldn't start until the man got off. The man resisted, but the passengers joined in
Yo,
and
like this
forced
world,
him
they
out of
try
the
to
bus
save you,
with
man,
his
then you're kicking off
luggage,
him.
and then the
You see what I mean?
bus
I don't
started
like
to
saving
drive
people.
off.
These things.
The man was
Now
upset,
she wants to shoot
but there was
like a
nothing
big
he could
person.
do. So he just looked at the back of the bus while it left him behind. Staring at the back of the bus, he was suddenly shocked. When the bus entered the curve, it did not slow down, and then it dropped down a cliff. The bus driver didn't reduce the speed on purpose. All the passengers on the bus died, except for the man who was kicked off the bus.
Oh wow.
This is a story about a dream. There was a person who was preparing for a trip. After he bought a plane ticket, he waited a few days with excitement and finally fell asleep a day before the trip. And he had a weird dream. he saw a woman in his dream wearing a colorful jacket. Her eyes and mouth were both wide open. Then she suddenly shook her body and started to dance like a mad person. Being surprised, he finally woke up. He checked the time and then he realized that the boarding time had already passed. All of a sudden, he received a phone call from his mother while he was thinking about what he should do next. As soon as he answered the phone, he heard his mother's anxious voice. She was worried about him. Confused, he turned on the television and the news made his heart drop. The plane that he was supposed to be on had crashed. Furthermore, the airline's logo looked very familiar to him.
So wait, what does
I
that
was
mean?
bullied when I was in high school. One day, I fell asleep
Who hasn't
while
bullied
in
when
class,
you're in high school?
and when I opened my eyes, it was already dark outside. During the class, no one bothered to wake me up, so I had to leave the classroom
Imagine waking
alone.
up and you're the last. It's
The
night
dark
at your school.
hallway
I'd
was
rather sleep
scary
till
and
morning.
tears were rolling down my face. I was really
That's not
sad,
worst. That's why I don't
realizing
sleep at
that
school.
I was being bullied.
Imagine you
Anyway,
wake up,
I was
it's late.
passing by a
Not
full-length
no one-
mirror in the middle of the school stairs. Then, as I was walking downstairs with my cell phone's flashlight, I saw myself in the mirror by accident, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it for a while. I was not reflected on the mirror. Being confused, I looked in the mirror straight ahead this time, but still, I couldn't see myself. Staring in the mirror for a few more minutes, I then screamed and ran out of the school. Come to think of it now, I think they didn't see me in the classroom that day.
Oh wow. I give all those three. Okay, 1 out of. Sorry, Wincy, but 1 out of. Say number 1.
It all happened during a hiking trip 3 years back. I have always been athletic from a very young age. My parents enlisted me into a rock climbing crash course when I was just 12 years old. I have taken years and years of training, and above all that, I always loved spending time in nature. I went on a hiking trip near Utah's White Mountains. The ambiance felt amazing as I walked amidst dense forest staring at the mountains surrounding the area. Forest has a different sound than any other landscape. I could hear owls hooting, the wind howling, and many unknown forest creatures hiding behind tall, wide trees and dark bushes. The sun was shining bright, but the forest was covered with big bushy trees, hence the sunlight could hardly touch the forest ground. Being a nature lover, I had a habit of bird watching as well. I always carry my binoculars whenever I go hiking. The nature around me felt so amazing that I lost track of time. While I was busy watching a big, colorful bird fly away from one tree to the other, I realized the sun was about to set soon. I felt a bit hungry. I sat under a nearby tree and took out the sandwiches I packed for myself. There was plenty of time to get down the hill, so I thought to eat first so that I can get some energy. After eating, I got up and glanced at my wristwatch. It showed 5:30 p.m. In cities, 5:30 p.m. is not that late, but in forests, an afternoon can appear as night. I took out my torchlight and flashed ahead, just when huge lightning struck in the distance. I looked up at the sky and noticed dark clouds have summoned themselves and were ready to pour at any moment. I didn't expect rain, so I didn't bring my umbrella with me. I got a little worried now and started to walk fast. I calculated inside my head that after half an hour of straight walk ahead, I will reach the downhill road. As I walked, I kept hearing the dark clouds roaring above my head, the wind blowing rapidly among the forest. After 15 minutes, big drops of rain started to fall above the trees and a huge thunderstorm took place. It was thrilling, but scary at the same time. I was in a deep, dark forest, that too, in the middle of a thunderstorm. The wind got so gusty that I could barely walk. The heavy raindrops almost pierced my skin after falling from the sky. I had no idea what to do, and just when I started to run, my feet got stuck in a pit. I fell on the wet forest floor. It was raining so heavily that I overlooked the pit on the ground. My flashlight broke with a loud sound, and the atmosphere around me turned dark and
It just
scary.
felt like porridge.
I somehow managed myself and got up, but after walking for 10 more minutes amidst this terrific storm, I realized that I have lost my way. I looked at my watch and it showed 8 p.m. By this time, I should be going down the hill, whereas I was still stuck in this dense forest.
I think your guys.
There was no way I
the
could
lighting
call
is so I'm
someone
doing
for
this
help.
later on.
The storm
The
was
lighting is
growing
bad,
with
it's
each
so I'm doing
minute.
this later on.
Suddenly, an idea came to my
I promise to
mind.
bring it out that
I
day.
climbed
You're
up the
getting
tallest
worse
tree
now.
nearby and took out my binoculars.
Yeah, it's fine now.
As far as my eyes went, I could only see the forest. Just when I was thinking about how horrible it would be to spend the night in these trees with an ongoing storm around me, I noticed a yellow light on the left side of the forest. I zoomed a bit and saw a wooden house standing there. I immediately came down from the tree and started to run towards the house. I was adamant because this was my only chance to survive the night. Panting and breathing heavily, I reached the house and knocked on the door. "Anyone here? Please open the door." I could hear the low voices of people coming from the house. I knocked again and almost cried. "Hey, please help. I got lost in the woods. Please open the door." With a loud creaking sound, the door finally opened. A man peeked behind the door and smiled at me. He told me in a very comforting voice,
One thing I'll
"Good
never
Lord,
do, no matter
what
how
happened to
scared
you?
I am, I will
Please,
never ever go to
come
a stranger
inside."
house.
I quickly got inside without any more delay.
That's my very close.
It was an old wooden house. The living room had an old rusty porch, 2 wooden chairs, and a wooden table. At the center wall, there was a small fireplace. The man gave me a cloth to clean myself and said, "Please, sit near the fireplace. You will warm up soon. I will go get my wife." I pulled the chair near the fireplace and sat on it. After a while, a woman entered the room with that man. I have never seen such a sad face. That woman seemed tired and upset at the same time.
Damn.
I thought she might be disturbed by my sudden interruption. The man guessed my feeling and said, "My wife has been through a chronic disease for a long time. Please,
We don't
make
have
yourself
disease,
at
eh?
home." The woman creepily smiled at me and said, "Yes, please don't mind. I often get lost in my thoughts. Actually, my son is very naughty. He is always giving me tantrums."
There was an
I
amount,
smiled and thought, how surprising that this family is living in the woods all by themselves. I didn't see a car near the house. I was wondering how they are managing daily livelihood in the middle of nowhere. Just then, the man said, "It's common to get lost in such a deep forest when you don't know it
Never
well.
common. Guys go to London,
We are
but
living
it's
here
not
for
common. It's
quite
not
a
common.
while now. Our son
It's
Jimmy
not
knows the forest
common.
even better than the
Just
owls
know
and the
you're
night
stuck in the
creatures."
woods, you are destined to die.
I told them I came for hiking and got
Tell
lost
them-
due
tell
to
them
the
they
sudden
will have
thunder.
my baby.
The storm was still going outside, as I could
I'm
hear
not
the
going
glass
home,
window
honestly.
clinking, along with the whooshing sound of the wind. The rain almost stopped, but thunder and lightning kept striking the forest as usual. The woman offered me to dine with them, but I was already enough ashamed to break into their house, so I just asked them to give me a room to sleep for the night. I told them I will leave early morning so they have nothing to worry about. The man and woman smiled again. The woman said weirdly,
That smile.
Well,
What type of smile is that?
"There's a lot of night left to pass. But don't hesitate, you are our guest for the night." She then looked at her husband and said, "Darling, please take him to our guest bedroom.
Chérie,
I will go and put
s'il vous
Jimmy to
plaît,
sleep."
tika na
The man
chambre
took
na
me to a
biso.
room following a narrow passage beside the living room. He opened the door for me and said, "Have a good night's sleep then, and please lock your door. Our son might disturb you at night. He is a
I'm
very naughty kid.
I'm leaving.
He barely sleeps."
I'm leaving.
The man left. I had no energy left in
leaving.
me,
If you had
so
to say that, I'm
I locked
leaving.
the
I'm
door
sorry, I'm
and
leaving.
threw myself into the bed. The room was dark, and the moonlight coming from the window helped me to spot the bed. I didn't want to turn on the lights because it was, anyway, matter of one night. I was just feeling lucky to find a shelter finally. I don't know how long I slept, but suddenly I woke up hearing giggling around the room. I tried to listen closely and heard it again. It was a kid's muffled chuckling. I remembered the man told me to lock the door and I forgot. I got up on the bed and my eyes took a few seconds to adjust to the darkness of the room. The pale moonlight was coming from the window. I saw a 5 or 6-year-old boy standing near the window, facing his back at me. I said in a sleepy voice, "Hey, you should go and sleep." Your parents will be angry if they saw you awake. I was going to get up myself to take the boy to his room, but I couldn't do it as what happened next made my heart drop to my stomach. The boy looked at me. His eyes were white and huge. There were no eyeballs inside them. I said in a shaking, terrified voice, "Who are you?" The boy laughed like before and ran outside the room. I immediately got up and lit the light switch of the room to find my backpack. The room was very unclean. There was dust all around the room and cobwebs were hanging in the corners and the ceiling. The bed I slept on was covered with mud and an old worn sheet. I realized no one had used this room for a very long time. I looked for my backpack all over. Just when I remembered, I slid it under the bed before dozing off. As I knelt down to get it, I discovered the ultimate horror. 3 corpses were lying under the bed. A man, a woman, and a skeleton of a child in between them. The man and woman were recognizable, as their corpse still had dried out flesh and skin on them. My head went crazy because I have seen them before. They let me in this house and offered me to spend the night in the room. I didn't waste a single second and came gasping out of the room. As I reached the living room, I glanced back at the narrow passage, and what I saw terrorized me for my entire life. The man and the woman were standing at the end of the passage with their son. All of them had white big eyes with no eyeballs inside them. Their black hollow mouths were open to their chest. As I ran for the door, they all started to laugh in a distorted voice. I don't remember how I managed to get myself out of the house or that forest, but the next morning when I woke up, I found myself in the hospital bed. I had a bandage over my head, my arms were filled with scratches, and my body was covered in immense pain. A police officer came to me and said that some village people found me unconscious in the forest, covered in mud and blood. They informed the police officers, and I eventually ended up in this hospital. The cop asked me about all the details, and without thinking, I told him all I could remember. I told him how I took shelter to a house of a dead family and every other thing that I could remember. The cop took a pause and said, "I can't tell you what you saw was real or your imagination, but there is a house in the forest. But no one goes there as local people believe it is to be haunted. The house is completely abandoned and highly unusable for any living human being. I don't think anyone has lived there for the last 10 years. I asked him, "But what happened there?" The police officer said in a sad voice, "A small family lived there. A man built that house to live in peace with his wife and only son named Jimmy. The boy fell ill with a bite of an unknown forest insect. He used to play in the forest even though his parents told him not to. They couldn't save their only son, and out of pain and guilt, the man and the woman hung themselves. Some people say they did it to live with their little Jimmy's spirit. And since then, their ghosts haunt that house every night." The cop also told me that there's a saying that if you go to the house in the daylight, you won't see anyone. But at night, the house turns into a regular cozy home like everyone else's. They even heard laughter coming out of the house at night, like a happy family is having dinner together. Kim and David were having breakfast on a sunny Sunday morning, sitting at their house. David said to Kim,
Okay. Scary, the scale. I'll give it a 4 out of 9. Here we go. So, story about Michael Jackson.
The next story was inspired by this infamous Michael Jackson animatronic that has surfaced the internet for quite some time now. The term El Ayuwaki was linked to the video, which was just another way of saying, "Annie, are you okay?" Like I said before, this was just an animatronic, but really sent shockwaves online for its distinct disturbing facial features, and how it was able to make subtle movements. For anyone with the name Annie, we hope you are okay. Years and years ago, my life looked a lot different. I had to move towns to start working at a new job. At first, I ran into trouble finding a place. I spent many nights scrolling through page after page of Craigslist ads, as that was just about the only way to sublease a room back in the day, and I didn't have the savings to afford my own place just yet. However, I eventually lucked out with a pretty cheap listing for a room in a basement with 2 other people living upstairs. There wasn't much information other than that, but when I arrived, I realized why the rent was so affordable. The landlord, also one of the residents, was a frail, creepy-looking old man with the most wrinkled, leathery skin I've ever seen, even on an elderly person. HD television was becoming really popular around this time, and I couldn't help but think to myself that this guy had more wrinkles on his forehead than Gordon Ramsay. Of course, I tried to hide what I was thinking. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Gus. I'm Gus.
Well, don't just stand there. Get inside.
I brushed aside his curmudgeonly attitude and brought in my luggage. He showed me to the basement, where I was to be living. And my first impression of it honestly wasn't so bad. I'd never been the type of person to be creeped out by basements, and the space was relatively in good condition with lots of room, though it was a little dark and drafty. Still, nothing I couldn't handle for a few months to a year. This is a really nice space.
Of course it is, wise guy. Do I look like some kind of broke geezer to you?
No, sir. It was just a compliment. An awkward silence ensued, and I couldn't stop staring at the wrinkles on his forehead. He seemed to need a moment to catch his breath before going back up the stairs. I thought to myself at least his trouble with mobility meant he would rarely bother me in my own space. The silence was unbearable, so I tried to make normal small talk. Do you, live with your wife upstairs?
That old hag died years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry for...
Don't sweat it, kid. That wench was for the streets. Or better yet, the nursing home. Her wrinkly, saggy melons were expired goods anyway.
Thanks for the info, I guess. Did you two have any kids?
I hate kids. Having kids is like having a dog, except you can't put them in a cage. Thank God for playing bees.
Well, I hate to keep prying, but who's the other tenant living upstairs? The ad said there were 2, so I just want to get to know so I can know my roommates.
I'll tell you a secret, if you'll keep it.
Okay.
I live with L.I.U.W.A.K.I.
L-I-U what?
It's short for Annie, are you okay?
Wait a minute. Are you saying you live with Michael Jackson?
Shh, quiet down. I don't want the neighbors finding out, idiot.
Okay, but if I'm living with Michael Jackson, I have to meet him. Can you show me to his room?
Sure, if you insist.
He led back up the stairs and down the hallway to his bedroom. I didn't believe him for a second. Michael Jackson's death wasn't even that long ago at this point, but I had to see what he was talking about. Half of me was amused, and the other half was concerned with how deep the senile old man's delusions went. When he opened the door to his bedroom and introduced me to this L.I.U.W.A.K.I., as he put it, I understood that they went down quite a bit farther than what I had expected.
This is Michael. Michael, I'd like you to meet our new housemate, Gus.
I was petrified. This L.I.U.W.A.K.I. was not even a real person. It was a ghoulish animatronic thing that looked vaguely like the person it was supposed to be. It moved around in the most unnatural way, even being able to make expressions with its face, which was just a disintegrating piece of silicone that was barely attached. It turned to look right at me, then robotically moved its arm to wave.
Well, wave back!
Reluctantly, I obliged the old man's peculiar demand. What made the presence of this mechanical monstrosity even more unsettling was how it changed that hostile man's demeanor to someone somehow more pleasant, almost like he was in love with the thing. I excused myself so I could be alone in my new room. Just picturing that distorted face sent chills down my spine, and it never got easier. Throughout my time living there, I would frequently see that thing when I went up to the hallway to use the bathroom or leave the house. It would just stand in front of its bedroom door and follow me with its eyes, and sometimes it would walk around the kitchen aimlessly. Yet somehow, the landlord never seemed concerned with the strange behavior, as if he really believed it was alive. One night, things started to cross a line. I woke up around 3 a.m. to the creeping sound of an inhuman voice. Until that point, I had no idea that awful machine could speak. But now this demonic mock-up of Michael Jackson was talking to itself as it stalked the hallway right upstairs. I watched my door from my bed and refused to admit that I was actually terrified. The doorknob rattled, then the door flew open, slamming against the wall. There he was, just standing in the doorway, staring at me in the darkness. He started laughing again while he tilted his head to the side farther than any human could. I threw my covers over my face and turned over. I figured if I ignored it would go away. Thankfully, I eventually heard it walk away and was able to sleep. The next morning, My door was still open. As I left for work, it was in its usual place at the end of the hall, watching me with its empty eyes. After not sleeping very well the previous night, I was running late for work, so I didn't have time to talk to the old man about what had happened. And of course, when I got home, he was already asleep. I hoped it was just a fluke. All this crazy L.I.U.W.A.K.I. stuff was driving me insane. The whole situation was a nightmare, and I had to find a way out. Unfortunately, I didn't find it in time. The next night started off the same way. At 3 in the morning, my door slammed open. I was standing there in the darkness at the end of the hallway. Then, I could hear that disturbing noise. He bolted towards my room and rushed to the foot of my bed.
Leave me alone or I'm calling the cops!
He climbed over and pinned me, screaming in my face.
You think I don't see you mean-mugging me all the time? This is my house!
That's when the animatronic began to repeatedly slam his head against my face. I couldn't break free from the weight of all the metal, so I saw my only option as the lamp next to me on my nightstand. I reached over and took hold of it, and smashed it across his face. He laughed and fell back, but I didn't stop. I'd been tormented by this insane thing for far too long. I wanted to make sure the thing never moved again. I pushed him off the bed and shoved my knee into his neck, pummeling him with the lamp until his stupid laugh finally stopped.
Why is it one thing Michael Jackson's not
Feel the hot blood streaming down my face, coating my hands and soaking into my clothes. I was exhausted, but my heart was beating so quick I had no hope of sleeping. I curled up against my bed and tried to calm myself down, but no matter how much I tried to rock myself to sleep, I couldn't even understand why I was so disturbed. Hours later, the morning sun finally shined through the window and illuminated everything. I had wondered how the old man upstairs had managed not to wake up to all the noise, but then it made sense. He was right there on the floor, in a pool of his own blood. I looked up the stairs and saw the animatronic monster smiling down on me.
Okay. Anyways, we have reached the end of the video. Thank you so much. Okay, wow, that was crazy. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm glad to be back. It's been long. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm glad to be back. Thank you for all those who like and subscribe. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. I will see you next time. But for now, I'm out. Peace of the East. Of the out.
Look, my sister.
Something's wrong. This guy says sweet to me, but it's coffee. Gents, think I have food.
C'est moi. Pose-toi des.
Ce n'est pas les frères JP, c'est lui qui nous enseignait à l'église là-bas. Non, faut pas aimer les filles. Imagine, il faut quoi ici? Non, ne me dis pas que...
Son.
Ferme les yeux, ferme les yeux. En tout cas, vraiment, je suis étonnée de toi. Tu les scènes fort.
Ouais, franchement, ça me dépasse. Maman.
She